Jumbo, everybody. We welcome you all back to Satora's Black History Corner Internet program. I am your host, Catherine Hunter Williams, along with my co-host, Miss Catherine Blake.
Hello, everybody.
As Miss B. And Mr. Moss, I'm sorry, but something happened and we was not recording because he went home to watch us. So just stay tuned. We still here, okay? All right, today we're going to start off our program. We have a guest that I had said that the last time that he was here, we were talking about hatred of black people. Why, and is it escalating? And so our guest here today is Priest Elliott McCants.
Okay.
Oh man,
thank you.
Welcome
tongue to the program, and we're going to talk about the hatred of black people in this country. I like this book you have called American Apartheid, and why I said apartheid because years ago, this what's his name from Dr. Ben said that it's apartheid because they kept them apart and hated them, and trickery was used with this word when they started saying apartheid. That was years ago. Okay, so if you say apartheid hate, you know they kept them apart and they hated them in South Africa.
Oh well, but that's like that all over the world. So
they do. That's what I want to know. That's the whole thing that's about this program is this hatred of black people all over the world, and we know where it started. We know it started right here and in Europe. We know how it got propagated through scientists saying our brains was too small. People, they were saying we didn't have souls, you know, and this is after hundreds and hundreds of years of being programmed like that. And then we come here to the 50s and had the civil rights movement, had those moments that we was talking about earlier. Then you get down here where we are right here, and we're going backwards to me.
Well, I disagree with that because there's pockets of consciousness that are growing in the country. Whether they are internet scholars, where they study YouTube, or whether they go to libraries and study books. I've been able to speak with and be part of a couple of groups. There's actually one group of young men and young women here in the city called Conscious Minds, and they are starting to, develop some scholarship. And we can appreciate the younger generation starting to pick up the mantle where the older generations have, kind of, moved away from it.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
that's happening here at the University of Michigan? No,
it's it takes place over at, we meet, and I meet when I have an opportunity to, over at Caribbean Link Up on Ballinger Highway, where a young man from Jamaica has a restaurant over there.
But
really?
On Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, they meet on Sundays.
For years.
Yeah,
but
and he's got really good food too.
Over at the Mott Community College, where they bring in it's either University of Michigan or Mott Community College, where these young men are coming together to start developing scholarships.
I'm not talking about scholarships as far as monies to go to school. I'm talking about scholarships where they've been studying and they share information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's an excellent thing as well because we need that as well. But I'm talking about being a scholar and starting to do scholarship with some information that they that's come into their lives that's been life-changing information for them. And these are things that you and Miss B and Dr. George Moffat kind of forced us to take and swallow and become the steak that we enjoy, this type of scholarship. So.
Well. Y'all thinking for self, huh?
We have to. We have to in this world because this world is not this world. Let me say this. Let's be clear. It's not the world, but the group of people that are in charge that get the privilege from the system that's been put in place. That's the issue. The world itself is the world itself. It's our marketplace. It's where we are able to make our living and to give and share and those things like that. But the system that is in place to keep people under suppression and oppression, that's the issue.
Oppression. I was going to get to that one.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Okay, let's get not back to see what happened is we had a program prior And we were talking about what happened in Charlotte, North Carolina.
South Carolina.
In South Carolina, I'm sorry.
South Carolina.
And something happened and we were not recording or whatever. So that's why, excuse me if you hear me say, let's get back. Because we were talking about it earlier. This is a new program we're starting, and that passion has got to come back.
Oh, don't trust me, it's coming. Trust me, it'll be back.
So let's. Well, John has left, so I don't know where he at. He can't show the picture of Clementa Pinckney. Oh, there he is. Okay. We just want to take a few moments in silence to remember the 9 people, and then we're going to have some discussion about them and what's going on. And like this book that you have, American Apartheid, this is exactly what's happening in this country.
Yeah, that was the whole point of the segregational issue. And it is, and you can still see segregation, you know.
You got the picture up, John? Okay. This is this happened in Charleston, South Carolina on June 17th. That was last Wednesday. At Emmanuel. And Emmanuel is a nice, sweet name because it says God is with us. Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church.
AME.
Huh?
AME.
The pastor there his name was Clementa, Clementa.
That's an unusual name too I thought.
For me, yeah.
Yep, he was the pastor. So I want to give you a little bit of history about him because they done killed a senator down there.
Yes.
In 1996, at age 23, he became the youngest American African elected to the South Carolina State Legislature. Did I say
legislature?
I'm gonna just say legislation. Is that better? Sometimes my tongue just don't work right. And I've said that for years. In 2000, he was elected to the state's to the state senate in the country. His church was one of the oldest black churches in this country.
I think it was started by Gabriel Prosser, who was an abolitionist. He was an insurrectionist in 1920.
And a lot of people don't know about him.
Yeah, he was a minister as well.
A lot of people don't know about him. Anyway, he was survived by a wife and 2 children. And his name is Clementa Pinckney. And he was the pastor, and he was a young man, 1996, so 96, 2000. He's around about 40 something now.
46 or 47.
Still a young man. And I like to name some people. It was 9 people that were murdered by Dylan.
I thought his name was Dylan Roof.
I know it's Roof. Is it Dylan?
It's Dylan. So usually it's pronounced Dylan. Dylan. That's like Dylan. Like Dylan Thomas. He was a Welsh. That's like Bob Dylan. His family probably named him after Bob Dylan. But Bob Dylan was not a racist or anything. So, but it's just a lot of people. In certain times of years, people name their kids because of the things in the press.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the most names that were given to girls and names that they was given. They put it on TV. That's a programming thing. Subliminal thought
seduction.
Thing.
Subliminal seduction.
Yes.
So a subliminal thought. Yes.
Yes, it's a thought. I was talking to Elliot about high thought, but I'm gonna tell you where I got that from. I'm gonna tell you where I got it from.
I don't want to hear it because it's wrong.
Well, you was talking about the man that had the $61 million. I'm finna mess with that. The $61 million, and I want to call his name out because he has a lot of people following him.
Who crap for $1? He's an idiot.
Yes,
he's an idiot.
He the one who had the high thought.
He had high thought because he had a bunch of people following him and they gave away their life savings on his foolishness. That's their fault. He programmed them and he won, so he won the game.
I don't like it when they use the Lord to do that.
But that's
everybody does. That's what they happen. Well, if you don't decide to accept this Christianity, we're going to kill you. They use the Lord in order to enslave people. If you don't decide to accept Muhammad, then we're going to cut your hand. In the Quran, we're going to cut your hands off. They use the Lord. That's the Crusades. They used the Lord because one of the Pope in 1941. I can't remember who he is. Dr. Moss, you'll send that to me. I know you will. decreed that these people were heathens, and it's okay because they don't believe in Jesus, to enslave them and bring them to Christianity.
Well, didn't they do that in Africa?
That's what I just
They
said.
took the Bible over there and took the land.
They're right. They left the Bible and took the land. Absolutely.
Calling them heathens.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well, let's get back to this conversation about what happened in Charleston, South Carolina, where 9 people were murdered.
Yeah, it was an act of terrorism. They won't label it as such, but that's exactly what it was.
That's exactly what it was.
It was an act of terrorism. It was a planned act of terrorism. Okay? This young man, and I'm just putting 2 plus 2 together, I could be wrong. There's no way you can plot and plan and you have weapons and guns and your roommate knows about it, and then you telling people that you're going to do this. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm mad at you, I'm going to kill you, but I've got no weapons. But it's another thing to say, I'm mad at you and I'm going to kill you and I've got weaponry as well. He had weaponry, so something was going to happen. Okay, his roommate should have, even if it was nothing, his roommate should have alerted the authorities.
Absolutely.
So that massacre, that act of domestic terrorism would not have taken place.
In our church, in a church,
A terrorist doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To terrorists, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a church, whether it's the World Trade Center, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
We just had an act of terrorism here happen last year before last, where at a funeral somebody came inside a church and killed somebody in the church.
Yeah. Right
It's
here
still
in Flint.
terror. It's right.
What that was right
It's still
here.
here.
In Flint,
It's still
was it?
active terrorism.
That was them boys that was over here.
But you
at
know,
that church.
but the topic was
Yeah, get back to Charlotte,
Yeah.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes.
And the topic is the hatred of black people is escalating in this country.
It's not just in this country, it's
All
around the world. In
world.
Papua New Guinea, they're mass murdering African people there. They're in mass. They're murdering African people there who were there before Europeans and anybody else. They're mass murdering people there.
I want to know why though.
That's because of the hatred of the people. Well, you know, part of it goes back historically.
Thank you.
Part of it goes back historically. When we were, our ancestors, our ancestry created the highest civilization known to man back in ancient times. We gave information to the world that most of the world didn't have. We come up thousands of years later and you go to Spain and you got the Moors that go to Spain, and that name only means black. It doesn't have anything else to do with anything else, ladies and gentlemen.
M-O-O-R.
Yes. And they go to Spain and they give civilization to Spain before they get removed 750 years later. Hannibal goes into the Pyrenees Mountains and he uses his mighty forces to subject other people to fight on his behalf. And then after maybe 1200 or whatever, the Gauls and the Mamelunes said never again, and they banded together as a group of people and said that we weren't going to have any takeovers by any other group.
That happened with the Jewish people too. They said the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. They were never going to have. Modern day their Holocaust, which was nothing like the African Holocaust,
at all.
which we won't ever talk about because we only figure we've been taught that there's been only one Holocaust. They said never again, and they meant it. So they put themselves in positions of power and control.
Yep, and they do have it.
And they got it. And
you're anti-Semitic in a minute,
and they'll sue you.
Yeah.
And they'll sue you.
Try to destroy you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's their position. But no group of people have ever been through the horrors and humankind that African people have been through. Whether it's the Islamic slave trade that lasted for over 1,200 years, or the transatlantic slave trade that lasted for almost 500 years. And then we won't even discuss the internal slave trade, which created a whole nother group of people here in this country that lasted from 1808. We can still even continue to call it that today. Till now.
Right, you're right.
Yep.
After the Congress said we weren't going to import any more people from Africa, well, that happened because of what happened in Haiti. after Haiti and the Haitian Revolution, and they kicked the French's butt. Then they didn't want to have anything else to do with importing any African people over here anymore, because the word got to Africa that, hey, we can defeat these people. Because we have to remember, even at that, the Berlin Conference took place in 1884. From the 1400s or 1300s all the way up until 1884, they only could partake of what were the people along the coastline. They had no entrance into the continent until the Berlin Conference in 1884. And the only reason why they got that was because they had a gun. They had a Gatling gun. And the Gatling gun was a tool that they were used.
Wars with them guns.
Oh yeah, they won a lot of wars afterwards, but you got people beating them with spears and sticks and stones and magic, and their belief system. And they kept them at bay for that long, for almost 500 years before the continent was divided up the way that it is now. So there's been a hatred of people because of our civilization, because of the development of our civilization and how we developed it from the Nile Valley, the Niger Delta regions, and other parts of the world.
Would you say intellect also?
And plus,
Absolutely.
strong, great people.
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
you know, being in this country as many years, hundreds of years that we've been here, we're still here.
Absolutely.
We're still standing, even though what they did to us for 250 years of enslavement.
Yeah.
Impunity to murder you.
One of
Speaking what you speaking.
Right. One of our scholars who worked with Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, his name is Dr. Theophile Obenga. I had an opportunity to meet him, and I think he was in his late 80s at that time, back in, I want to say 2004, 2005. He said, really what the world is waiting on is for you all to wake up and come home. And a couple of the presidents, some people go home, but I'm talking about en masse.
I don't think that's
not going to happen, because we don't have the mindset to, and we've been brainwashed into thinking that Africa is this particular country. Yes. It has its bad parts, but the reason why it has its bad parts is because of colonialism. It don't have its bad parts because of colonialism and Western education by the leadership, and they've continued to perpetuate this supremacist ideology.
And they do it here. National Geographic does it, ARC does it, because I've traveled around when I had the museum, and I would see them with pictures of pygmy with lice, women with no breasts. They don't show modern Africa here in this country.
They can't show modern Africa.
They show a lot of animals and stuff like that, but they don't show the people living in homes, driving nice cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, there is a channel on Comcast that shows modern Africa.
Yeah, I know that one.
But it's one channel as compared to hundreds of channels of foolishness.
Yeah. And then they basically, a lot of that, when I watch it, it's a lot of cooking and stuff like that. It's not actually showing people living in culture. Homes.
And you have to go over there. And yes, you will see the pockets of poverty. But you got them here.
Yeah, here.
You got worse pockets of poverty here in one of the so-called richest countries in the world. You got worse pockets of poverty here as compared to there. So then what they've done is brainwash their leadership again into living, this particular way. Still live this way. You still send money to France. You still send money to Britain. You still send money over here like you owe me.
There. You don't want to go to Africa.
No.
You hear them, let's go to Rome. You know, I mean, I just hear
if I go to Rome, they better check my passport in, because if I go to Rome, I'm taking some stuff back home.
I'm saying that they don't promote.
We don't promote to go to Africa.
I do.
We don't.
I tell you, once in a lifetime.
We had this discussion earlier. There are pockets of people who think differently. Just because you do, and I do, and she does, and Dr. Moss do, and a few other people do, it's not. We got 45 million people here, and 45 million people are not thinking about going to Africa because the lights shut off.
Yes.
Oh, so what? The lights go off here too if you don't pay the bill.
Yes.
Okay, but you got 45 million people here that won't think about it. I just found out, and this is I guess a good thing, that there's a young man who's going to go over to Tanzania and live there, so he can help install certain solar powered things in this particular community. But we
Solar?
won't. Oh yeah,
Wow.
but we won't think about doing it. We won't think about leaving. Oh yeah, go back to Africa. I wish I could. I wish I could. Now my 2 travels there, I didn't want to come back. Because even though I knew there was corruption and oppression there as well, it was different because the people were different.
Yep.
It was different. Not that corruption is correct, but the people are different.
Yeah.
And as soon as you land back on this soil, you put the mantle of oppression right back on because they let you know what position that you have here in this country. And you will never get some equality, ever. That's not ever going to be the case. That's the reason for segregation. That's the reason for Jim Crow laws. That's the integrationist movement really destroyed our communities because people could, I can get up and leave and go live somewhere else and have this type of life instead of staying here in my community. And that's what happened. That was part of the downfall. But now we've got an elected official, one of the highest positions that rank in the land, and he's been disrespected for the last 8 years he's been there. So they figure, well, if we can disrespect him, we'll disrespect everybody else. Again, I say, in South Carolina, that was an act of terrorism. When that senator or congresswoman that was shot in Arizona, even she was severely brain damaged. She was married to an astronaut and still is. That was considered and labeled. Her last name is Griffin or Griffiths or something like that.
Right.
That was considered immediately an act of terrorism. They took this boy out in a bulletproof vest. They took him out in a bulletproof vest.
The boy that shot him?
The boy that shot boy that shot her, they took him and put him right in there.
I got his full name too. It's Dylan Storm Roof.
Okay. So they put him in a bulletproof vest to save his life. Why? He just committed an act of terrorism. I guess it was against black people, so it doesn't matter. And that's what the problem is. Now, I'm not saying we don't have our own issues. If we clean our own house up, then we could deal with the other parts we can deal with the yard. But we don't even want to address that.
We're ever going to clean up our house?
Only if we change our minds. Only we have to have
take a tragedy. I mean,
but we having tragedies every day.
Yeah,
we're having tragedies every day.
It's not sinking. It's these
brainwashing, subliminal messages, subliminal seduction.
Thinking for themselves no more. I'm talking about this generation.
It's not just this generation, it's older people. Because older people, there's a lot of older people. If you have again, you just not listening, you're different.
Listening.
No, you're not. It's a lot of the generation that won't even talk to these young people.
There's a lot of them won't talk to me because I know history and I be trying to tell them.
And even if you tell, even if they walk away, even if you walk away, part of what the issue is, again, is how is that history going to make me money? Part of how is that history going to make me money? But yet this other thing can make me money. It should be both ends. Whatever this other thing is, whether it's entertainment or whatever, the other thing doesn't make me any money. But neither does terrorism. But it gives him, as other people, I've heard other people say, his 15 minutes of fame. It gives him his fame. It gives him, because he was maybe one of those boys that was completely useless or lifeless and didn't have any social life or whatever.
So you're talking about Dylan. I'm talking about black boys, black men.
Well, but all of it is domestic terrorism. It's all terrorism. It's all terrorism. In order to get somebody's attention, I'm gonna take my clothes off. But yet you can't speak a complete sentence, or you can't write a complete sentence. That's educational terrorism.
And you don't think that our youth need to know their history so they can
absolutely
understand
come on? I'm a historian, absolutely, and every time I have the opportunity to, I talk to them about it.
If they listen, and
it doesn't matter whether they listen. They listen. They just may not. They may not completely focus. Because
they don't let it sit. They don't let it.
And I disagree. You got to be in a classroom.
Well, is there a classroom here in Flint?
Anytime I go into one, I talk to them about it.
I do too.
Okay.
I do too. There's 2 of us. Okay, that's 3 of us.
Okay.
And I know Dr. Moss do. So that's 4.
Okay, but if you got four people, if you got, and you know you have more than that. We know in numbers we have more than that. But if the majority of the system is about this particular education because it's going to bring certain things, and and I have a management company that's only going to talk about this particular ideology, which is about this particular dream that you won't achieve, but we want you to work hard at it. That again is educational terrorism.
I never looked at it like that. Yeah, but you're right.
It used to be, what's his name, wrote the book on miseducation.
Yeah.
Miseducation of the Negro. That was Dr. Carter G. Woodson. What did he say? If you keep telling somebody to come to the back door, keep telling them to come to the back door, not only will they come to the back door, they'll build the back door for you.
But
So we've been told to build the back door, build the back door, build the back door, and now we're still at the back door.
Do you think that the people have gotten desensitized?
Absolutely.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got video games and all this other stuff, and the fact that we lack, and when we shouldn't lack, because if we were communal, and we mentioned this point before, if we were communal and we took care of each other and looked out for each other, if you cooked the meal and I brought the bread and she brought the meat, then we all eat. See that, and what we still kind of want to tend to forget, and I know this is kind of going off the subject, but even when we have these so-called gains, that's communalism. Those gains are tribal because they're willing to share. Now, unfortunately, they're using a different method in order to share, but they're once again, that's segregation. That's self-hatred. That's a taught propaganda that in order for them to continue to perpetuate this situation. And then again, it feeds another system, the prison industrial complex. So all this stuff is connected.
That's a whole nother issue.
But it's all connected, though.
Lord have mercy.
It's all connected.
Big
Anytime
money in
you're willing to spend $40,000 per year to keep somebody incarcerated, but only give $7,000 a year per student
Education.
for education, that's completely out of balance. It's supposed to be switched around.
So it's a purpose for it all.
It's a purpose for it all. It's a design system to make sure that the group of people that I owned, I still own.
and control.
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
Oppression.
Through oppression. Through any oppression that they want to use. That's what they're doing. Through education, through lack of jobs, through housing, through any system. Oh, you need to come down here and you need to get some state assistance. Not a problem. But guess what? The father of the child can't be there. Really? You're tearing a family apart. On purpose. It's part of the system.
It really was back in my mom's time, definitely.
Oh, they still do it today. They still do it today.
Oh, I
they
don't
still
know
do
about
it.
Today,
Yeah, but they still do it today.
Today they would break up your family in a heartbeat.
That's the whole point of the exercise.
To help you better get that man out the house.
You got to stay out the house. He can't be there to raise his children.
This has been going on all the way from Africa when they brought us here, and we've been fighting ever since.
Yeah.
But it's not changing. It's some changes. I take that back. It's some changes.
I was getting ready to say, because there are pockets of change.
It's some change.
And there's more change than what we think. Because what I've noticed, and I have some friends that are my Facebook friends, they're in different parts of the world. You know, so I know if they're consciously putting things on Facebook, that they're also consciously, at least they better be. And if you ever listen to this show, I'm talking to you out there in different parts of the world that always send me stuff. So I'm sending this to you. You better be sending and saying what you're saying over here. If you're in another country, you better open your mouth over there. Other than that, keep your mouth closed.
If you're not part of the solution,
you're part of the problem.
Part of the problem. Now, Catherine has some issues, not some issues, but some solutions, because we was talking about getting to
well, no, it wasn't so much solutions. It's just that there are several organizations that are trying to work with the community, the youth. Like Kenyatta Dotson and with Church Without Walls.
But are they teaching them their history?
No, absolutely.
Are they trying to teach them how to get jobs?
Now, Freedom School.
You can teach them how to get jobs, but they're not teaching about history.
Now, Freedom School with Ms. Deloney, yeah, we do teach history. We teach African history and African American history. Yeah, we do. And with Bishop Jefferson and Caution, yeah, she does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she does. There are.
Well, they don't have a choice with me over there.
Yeah, I know.
That's where I'm coming from. That's my stance, and I'm not getting off of it. That's my. As a matter of fact, I need to build me a soapbox so I can stand on it, so they understand that this is where I'm coming from, and I'm unapologetic for it.
I'm not either.
And maybe you could
for any of it.
help me out, because with the Flint Development Center, we purchased Bunch School.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Sure. No, I would be more than willing to lend my little knowledge and talents to assist in any way we can.
Well, see, the room that I'm going to have is going to be the near room again. I'm going to have that again. And that is mainly about visions and values, pictures, and readings about our people, and the values is to bring our people back up to our right place in society.
But we also have to give them something to do. And one of my younger brothers used to say this to me. He still says, and it rings true to this day. He said, "You can't wake wake somebody up and don't give them something to look forward to.
Right.
You might as well leave them sleep." And right now, what we have is we're talking about waking people up. We're talking about bringing them to their consciousness, to themselves, to start to love themselves. But then if there's one person and 9 people don't, the other 9 people are going to have greater effect than the one, unless the constitution of that one person is so strong that they're willing to subject themselves to their greater, higher self than they would be to the lower base self that the other 9 are subjecting themselves to. And that's the difficult task. Because they got to see past the hopelessness, see past the blight, in order to be able to
love themselves,
and grow into their, I'm gonna just say it, God and Goddess that's inside them. Okay. Other than that, we're going to continue to have this system, which is going to continue to perpetuate these heinous acts of terrorism, and that's what this is.
Absolutely.
That's all it is. It's the police force was formed as a watch group.
Always.
Okay. It was to watch, to make sure that no group of people could escape off the plantation. In 1691 or 1681, the official police force was started by Irish people in Boston, to be a police force.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Okay. But down further south, way down south, they were started in order to make sure that groups of people, as they tried to escape the plantation, were monitored to do so. Monitored to make sure that they didn't escape. And then later on, they were part of the mobs that were used by the Klan, because they were they were Klan members, in order to make sure that whenever do you keep these people that we formerly owned in perpetual terrorism. So they became a police force. That's what the job is. They're protecting and serving the interests of one group of people. Not everybody. It's not to protect and serve everybody. It's to protect and serve, protect and conserve. Which means to keep the way it is. The status quo. Period.
Keep control.
Period.
Okay, let's go another little further. America's on fire. And I mean by the riots and different things that's going on in Baltimore, Chicago, Los Angeles, New Orleans, and other places around this country. I mean, how do you think what happened in Charlotte, North Carolina?
Charleston, South
Carolina. By the way those people reacted to what happened, is going to stop that? Those riots that's going on in these other places?
The riots, when riots happen, are a group of people's way of venting.
Yes.
Okay. They're a group of people. I'm tired of this system. I'm tired of not being able to work. I've got 7 million degrees, and I'm working at McDonald's.
No money.
And I've got no money.
No
my
food.
Education is horrible. My food sources are horrible because the system has allowed these liquor stores to be our main food source. I'm really not getting anything from the church, because I go in there and he's driving something and I'm walking or whatever, and then there's insidious acts that happen inside the church. So people are tired. So one way to vent is to tear up. And there was something that one of my brothers said to me when we had this discussion, and he made me change my mind. I said the same thing. Well, they're tearing up where they live at. He said, well, what do they own?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, you know what, man? That was one of the first times somebody just really kind of shut my mouth with something that simple.
I didn't even think about that.
And that was, I was like, wow, that was pretty wise for a young fella.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of smiling. I had to pat him on the back and give him a hug because he made me, really check where I was. Where I was going. He said, no, we don't. We don't own where we tear up at. I said, but not a problem because we have a, no, we don't. No. Because then on the same token, it should be, okay, well, since we tore up that over there, then we'll come and we'll rebuild it how we want to. Because we have the tools and the capacity to do so. But again, the system is like, oh no, well, we won't let you do it. Look at Detroit. A lot of those buildings are still there as monuments to what happened in 67. Mm-hmm. Now, you got some other, some Europeans may come in there and they'll go and buy the buildings up. But then if they don't want to be bothered by what's going on in the neighborhood, what they'll do is they're still there. That's what, 50-something years later? 60-something years later? They're still standing there. 55, 54, 48, 49 years later. They're still standing there as a monument of you tearing up something and what you consider to be your neighborhood. But he was right. We don't own those places.
Sure don't.
Well, I know this. I seen it happen when I was growing up. My dad told me about it while he was growing up. Mm-hmm. Now my children are going through it, and I used to tell my children, that's the thing about them. Hey, y'all, racism is around. Mom, ain't no more racism.
Yeah, right. If you believe that foolishness.
Listen, they still did not believe me until it happened to them. Now I got my grandchildren, and I am tired of seeing what's happening. This murder that went on in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Terrorism. It was an act of terrorism.
South Carolina.
It wasn't a murder. It was an act of terrorism.
It's murder to me.
Okay.
Okay, you got it terrorism, I got it murder.
Okay, well.
They killed 9 people. The man killed 9 people. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing it happening. I'm tired of my people going through this. And I want a solution.
Well, the only solution that you're going to have is be able to tear this system apart and rebuild it.
As we was talking about earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
War.
But if it's a race war, unless we move to a whole nother race, we're going to lose. Because we don't have the guns, we don't have the ammunition, we don't have
I think some people around outside this country.
We don't have the guns.
Come to the aid.
We don't have the guns.
And it's also going to be whites.
We don't have the guns. We don't have the solution. We don't have the ammunition. We don't have the hospitals. When you talk, you got an army. They did it in 1985 in Philadelphia with Star, where they blew up.
And they blew it up.
Okay. So then if we talking about we might have some help with some people that may be liberal. They did it in 1921 in Tulsa, where they flew airplanes over because they couldn't go in and take these people to go to prison for something that never happened. If they were willing to do it and commit domestic acts of terror in 1985, when you start talking about getting guns and we're going to shoot and somebody's going to help, this will be over in a matter of moments.
Do you ever watch What Would You Do?
Yeah, every now and then.
Did you see the documentary they did on this white man that was walking down a main street with the gun on his back? With the rifle on his back. No, it wasn't a rifle. It was one of those, like an AK-47 or something. But the policeman knew what it was, and he had the gun on his hip and guns in his bag, and he had ammunition. And he just stopped him and asked him what was he doing. Why was he? The man told him it's my right. He read the right and everything, and they just talked. Let a black man do that, the same thing. They recorded it.
Oh yeah.
He called back up.
Yeah.
And had the guns drawn on him and told him to drop the guns. Total different. That was on.
Total different reaction.
Right. What would you do?
They do that. That's what they do. What would you do? They always if they have it with a man, they'll put a woman.
Now this was a black neighborhood that this young white man went into, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if it was a black man that was in a white neighborhood,
they would have shot him and killed him. He would have never left. Whether it was a show or not, they would have killed him. He would have never left the neighborhood.
Or like that Hispanic guy where that policeman ran him over.
Yeah.
Hit him and ran him into a wall. See him flying in the air. Yeah. I said, Lord, these people's crazy.
Well, not only that, but here in this city, I used to live in Flushing, okay? Mm-hmm. And when I moved out to Flint, I had problems there, but not bad problems. My son was in Flushing he had a lot of friends out there, sitting on the porch. This was a new white policeman that didn't know my son. Most of the policemen out there know my children. And he stopped. Now my son was sitting on a porch with his friends. Sitting, not walking, sitting. He stopped and asked my son what was he doing in that neighborhood.
Right.
What was he doing?
So then let us say we put that shoe on the other foot.
So it's double standards that's being used
right.
here?
Let's say we put the shoe on the other foot and we monitored our own neighborhoods. Hey, that activity is unacceptable. And, I'll do what I want to. Not a problem. But then I'll do what I need to. It stops. He effectively, in that particular instance, in that community, let any and everybody know that any activity that he didn't deem fit was going to be checked. And he did so. Protect and conserve.
Yes.
That status quo. That is their job. That's their job. When we talk about education, educational terrorism, it's not about going in there and educate them the way that they would educate their own children. It's not going to happen.
Totally different.
Why do we expect it? Oh, it's a good school. Okay, but where is your educational value as the parent? If your educational value as a parent isn't, I'm your teacher, and when you go in here, you show them what you know, then you've effectively given your children we have effectively given our children to the hands of the enemy so that they become fodder for the cannons, so that they become part of the system where it's disproportionate in what I pay to keep somebody incarcerated as compared to what I pay to keep a student in a classroom.
Well, one thing that I wanted to also ask you, Priest, was one of the statements that the young man said was that black people are taking over. Taking over what?
Over what? But who said that?
That's what he said.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah.
Well, that's in his mind.
Oh, that young man, Dylan, Storm Roof.
Yeah, that's in his mind. But so that goes back to the same propaganda that D.W. Griffith put out in 1915 in Birth of a Nation. This is all it says is propaganda.
Yep.
It's propaganda. They're using it for their purposes. They're using it, but they control it. So they're using propaganda for their purposes of continuing to perpetuate white privilege, which is all we're talking about. What we're using our propaganda for is to buy a new pair of tennis shoes that we don't even make.
Wow, you going deep there. Because that is true.
We don't even make these tennis shoes.
And it has a lot to do, as we used to talk about, the TV is one of their biggest social controlling tools.
Well, you got that in social media.
And our sports figures,
Used to there be no social media.
Yeah, but
the control was always there with the television.
So
when that sucker came in 1953.
But that's our own people are perpetuating that.
But even there was a meeting by Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was at that time known as Cassius Clay. I'm sorry.
That was Muhammad Ali.
Lou Alcindor.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
Yeah, we got it.
Well.
Mm-hmm.
Who said
know, so
right?
Correct that.
Who said that? We have to do something different and socially, and that ostracized Jim Brown. That ostracized the other athletes as well. Jim Brown has always been, despite the fact that they, made him to be this monster or whatever, he's always been an outspoken proponent for his community.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, he may have had some domestic issues, but that depends on whose side of the story you're listening to. But when he said that in the 60s, they understood that there was a problem. We were going through this social revolution here in this country, which sparked a social revolution in Africa, which sparks the social revolution in South America, And then once we get comfortable, instead of continuing to evolve this revolution,
right.
They just changed the face of the game. So yeah, you got no problem. Oh, you want it to be not a problem.
Here and then right here, those changes.
We'll let you go to our schools, but we'll just move somewhere else. So now we've got economic apartheid. And we'll still give you the books that you want, but they were used 30 years ago. It was a time when teachers, I don't teach from a book, I teach from here because I'm a student.
Always life.
I'm a student. And now it's you go into a classroom and I've got to follow this book that the management company told me that I had to follow in order to. But what about teaching? What about education? What about true education? Again, he said that he felt that something was going on, so he was led to create this terrorist attack against a group of innocent people that he knew nothing about.
That welcomed him and treated him nice. That welcomed him there
and treated him, probably gave him something to drink, and then he decided in his privilege to open fire and kill 9 people.
I say warped mind.
Well, you can call it what it is. You can label it how you want to. But in his mind, he felt he was justified because he was doing something for a privilege.
And his name will be in the history books.
Oh yeah, his name will be in it. Just like Timothy McVeigh.
Just like
Timothy McVeigh. Just like that boy in Sandy Hook that shot all of those kids there, and all the Columbine, and the boy out there in the theater who go, this is what they do it for, because most of them are social misfits.
Well, you got any famous last words that you'd like to say for while we're finna wrap this up?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, young people, older people, we gotta remove this foolish blockage. There's a document that we need to read and examine, and I really don't care whether people say this man existed or not, but the documentation works. We have a syndrome that we're living in all the time, and you see it happen all the time. I see it happen in classrooms. I see it happen with mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers. We've been disjointed and disunified for a reason. So it's easier to break a finger when the fingers are open than when the fingers are closed in unity. We've got to go back and really, really examine our history. We've got to take the lessons from it that we need. We've got to listen to what our ancestors said. We've got to go back and really reprogram ourselves, not based on this ideology that we want to live in now, but based upon the principles that our ancestors put in place a long time ago.
Absolutely.
They lived it. They lived that way. It was about community. Even under the worst oppressive conditions that we were living under, we still survived. In 1865, there were 19 million African American people here. 16 million people, as soon as there was some so-called freedom, went to school. The only 3 million that did not go to school were either too old and were watching the babies, which were too young to be in school. And we still valued education in that vehicle. A vehicle of education, and it's not about I'm gonna be a street person. Well, if you're gonna be that guy, be the guy. But don't play with it. Don't be the chump change guy. Don't be the chump change guy. Go out there and really do it and do whatever it is that you desire to do. Do it big.
Okay.
Be the head and not the tail.
You got anything you want to add?
Oh, he said it all. I guess it was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Priest Elliott.
Thank you.
And we can disagree to disagree.
Absolutely. We can agree to disagree, but it's all about love.
And you got your thoughts.
Absolutely.
And our main focus is to try to get our people to come together.
That's right.
To learn about themselves, who they are, where they came from. They learn the past. They can understand this mess that's going on, because I hear them, why are they doing that? You just got to know your past, our past.
Learn to love yourself.
We've also got to be able to have, we've also got to be able, and I'll be done, we've also, once you wake up, as my little brother would say, you've got to have something for them to do. It can't be wake up to...
We got to come together and give them something to do.
Didn't Spike Lee put that in one of his movies? Wake up! Wake up!
Oh, I like Teddy Pendergrass. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. Yeah. Time to get yourself up.
That was Lawrence Fishburne that hollered out.
Yeah.
Wake up.
But it was Teddy Pendergrass that did it way back then.
Yeah, okay.
That song, you know.
Right.
Okay. I like to just say this quote from Jackie Robinson. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's move forward. Come together. And you know, I'm going to teach our story as long as I can teach it. The Lord let me get up here and I can come in here or even newsletter, however I'm doing it. I'm getting mine out there.
Amen.
Because I know it's so extremely important for us to know our story.
That's right.
Not their story, but our story. Not his story, because his story been all whitewashed. I'm talking about our story. So I'm going to do what I got to do and go from there and continue to do it. I wish I had money. Because if I had money, then I would employ people. Money can bring us together too. It's another thing.
It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle of currency.
Lack of it.
That's right. Well, that's because when you're giving 95% of your dollars to somebody else, it ain't gonna be nothing left for you.
But see, we're consumerism. We're consumers. We're not.
That's part of the system.
Yeah. Okay. We got
lack.
1 minute. All right. All right.
Keep you in lack.
Thank you, because I be trying so hard, and I know what I would do if I had some money.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God
bless you. So many things that happen to us to keep us
in lack.
Like we want to move.
195% of the money go to one other group of people, and 3% of that 5% left goes to other groups of people. So there's 1 or 2% left in our community. That's our issue.
All right, Satora's Black History Corner internet program comes to you via satellite. At All Points TV, you can watch our program every second and fourth Monday of the month at 3:30, unless it falls on a holiday. Our program starts at 3:30, Also, be sure to watch what's going on with political pundit Dr. George Moss every Monday at 2 p.m. He has a very interesting program today. He got very emotional.
Yeah, he got very emotional today.
In Charleston, South Carolina. I mean, he was crying when he came out of here because I'm tired, and it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah, it hurts your spirit because
you don't want your spirit to die from what they're doing to other people.
But that's what they want to have happen.
Yeah, well, I'm tired of us killing each other too.
That's all part of it. It's all systematic.
12 people were shot in Detroit, and I'm trying to see if there's a connection going on here. And then also here in Flint, 3 people were shot overnight. You know?
My grandson told me he was watching another documentary on TV. I think he said Fusion on Fusion Channel, and there was this white man that's married to a black woman that has 3 sons. And he's afraid for his sons because...
I'm afraid for my grandson. I got 7. I'm afraid for them because it's like they can just...
But he said he feels the pressure. He feels... This is a white man that feels the pressure.
Oh, he feel it?
He feel pressure?
I said, wow, he feels the pressure.
We need to ring a bell for that one.
Thank you, because I've been feeling up. I'm afraid for my grandsons. That's
right.
I'm tired.
I'm always afraid for my sons.
I'm tired.
I got 5 of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shoot. Anyway.
But thank you for having me. You can call anytime.
As always, I like to say asante, which means in Swahili, thank you. To all of you who have watched our program today, and if you have liked what you've seen and heard, please pass it on. Until next time, my great and strong people, keep on keeping on with us.
That's right.
Hotep, which means peace.